I'm Eric Schumacher Rasmussen, the conference chair for streaming media. I'm also chief marketing officer at Ideas. Welcome to the last session of the main event at Streaming Media Connect this February. We do have a workshop tomorrow called Drool-Worthy Streaming Gear and How to Use It, which should be a lot of fun. We'll also be back in person in Boston for Streaming Media East in May 18th and 19th to be precise, with the Content Delivery Summit and Streaming Media University workshops on Wednesday, May 17th. Steve has popped those links into the chat. Check it out. The registration forms are up. The programs will be up within the next week. So take a look there. I'm sure you'll find something that appeals to you. And the earlier you sign up, the better deal you get on registration. Excuse me. Before we jump into the next panel, though, a couple housekeeping notes. If you have questions for the panel, please enter them in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen rather than in the chat. That just makes it easier for the moderator or I to keep track of them and then pose them to the panelists at the end. Also, subtitles are turned on. They may or may not be showing up on your screen, but if they are, you can go to the bottom of your screen, click on Hide Captions, and that will get rid of them. Finally, all of the sessions for this Streaming Media Connect and all of the Streaming Media Connects are available on our YouTube channel. Steve will be posting that link in the chat momentarily. You can also go to streamingmedia.com, click on video, and then click on conference videos. And that way you have access to all of the on-demand videos of all the sessions, well, almost all of them, from almost all of our streaming media events, both in person and online, going back almost 20 years. So it's a great resource if you've never checked it out. I'd like to thank our diamond sponsors, Signient, and we have a brief video message from them.
Wherever content needs to flow, the Signient platform can move any size file over any IP network at speeds that can be up to 100 times faster than traditional transfer methods. More than 50,000 businesses use the Signient platform to send and share files, automate movement of data between systems, exchange content with global partners, and move content to and from the cloud. The Signient platform gives you the power to operate at the speed you need to run your business.
And I'd also like to thank the sponsor of this session, and that is Zixi. Kevin Parks from Zixi will be joining this panel, and we've saved one of the best for last. I don't need to tell anyone watching this that one of the hottest topics of the last year, 18 months, couple of years actually, has been FAST, or free ad-supported television. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing what our panelists have to say about it. And they will be led by moderator John Barbato from Best Ever Channels. So with that, I will pass the mic and the camera over to you, Jonathan. How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much, Eric. Happy to be here and really excited about this panel. I've got some great panelists, and everyone's got some good news and some information that I think you'll find useful. And by the end of the panel, I'm hoping there's time left for questions. So start thinking about the questions you might want to ask. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jonathon Barbato. I'm co-CEO of Best Ever Channels. Best Ever Channels is a content studio. We have 9 FAST channels launched, a couple of SVOD subscription channels, hundreds of AVOD titles out there on all streaming platforms, and focused on 3 tentpoles: comedy with Wits, which is a channel in conjunction with The Stand in New York, Spin magazine channel with Spin, the iconic 40-year music brand, and then More You, which is sort of health, wealth, and wisdom, but also with iconic folk like Deepak Chopra for Spirit, Dr. Joe Dispenza for Mind, Kino McGregor or for yoga, and just a whole lot of interesting content there. But you're not here to hear me. So let's get to the panelists. I will start by letting them introduce themselves. And why don't we start with our connected TV folks? So Greg, Barnard, why don't you start us off here?
Sure. Thank you for having me today, Jonathan. It's great to be here. My name is Greg Barnard. I have been at Vizio for about 2.5 years now. I lead content acquisitions at Vizio for our O&O service called Watch Free Plus. It is a service, an ad-supported service that includes fast channels, our own fast channels that we create and build ourselves, and AVOD content. And then we lean into a lot of really fun stuff within those lines of business, like sponsored content and branded content and exclusive content and all that as well.
Great. Thank you. And Matt, why don't you go next?
Hey, Jonathan, thanks again for inviting me to this panel. My name is Matthew Durgin. I am the Senior Director of the North America Innovation Development Team. This is the group at LG, which is responsible for content, services, innovation, application relationships, and of course, our favorite topic today, LG Channels, which is LG's fast offering into the market. So it's going to be a great discussion. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Let's move on to our technologists on the panel. Kevin, why don't you start us off? Tell us about Zixi.
Sure thing. Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, so my name is Kevin Parks. I'm the Senior Director of Field Engineering for Zixi. And what that means is I manage all of our great solution engineers and sales engineers. And it means I get to work with our customers a lot and help solve problems, which I really love to do. And what Zixi is, in case people don't know, Zixi has been around for quite a while, for about 15 years now. A lot of people know of Zixi just from our protocol of getting content live event or live linear content over any IP network. But Zixi is really a software company. So we have a whole software-defined video platform. So we work with any protocol and deliver live linear or live events over any IP network. And we do that for content owners, content and content distributors.
Nice. Nice. Gustavo, why don't you tell us about TeleUP?
Yes, hi, I'm Gustavo de Medeiros. I'm the president of TeleUP. Our company specializes in providing white label television solutions for ISPs. And the unique thing that we have done, we have combined fast content, OTT content, and traditional cable programming in one. And that's what we do. So we go to ISPs all over the world, and we build television solutions for them.
Excellent. And last but certainly not least, Rema, thank you for being so patient. Why don't you tell us about your role at Fandango and what you're up to?
Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. My name is Rema Morgan-Aluko. I'm the VP of Software Engineering at Fandango, covering our Fandango ticketing brands, movie tickets, and Flixster, as well as our streaming service, Vudu, and our content brand, Rotten Tomatoes. So I lead engineering across those different brands. And if you're not as familiar with Vudu, so Vudu is a on-demand streaming transactional service. We have over 60 million registered customers who are experiencing the first run. So that's movies outside of the theatrical window, next day TV shows. And also we have kind of the largest assortment of 4K content that's available to rent and purchase.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, and let me just kind of set us up. So some of you might be thinking fast streaming, somewhat new, where'd this come out of? But most of us on this panel have been working in this for years. I mean, it's been 10 years, I think, since I got started and working with Tubi and Pluto. And really, it's come a long way, right? It's been, in the last 5 years, HTML seamless. You can buy almost any connected TV for less than $1,000. And your living room suddenly becomes as if these people are in your living room. And in that also the offering has shifted. So now that the audience is there, the channels with the content that we all recognize and love are coming there as well. And I think that, we're going to see some major changes in what's being offered and how it's being offered. So technology as well as content. And I'll start off with the connected TV folk and maybe you, Gustavo, on the panel. Let's hear from one or all of you about that. I mean, what do you think Fast 2.0 is going to be about? What are we going to see different in the content, and what technology we're going to introduce?
Yeah, Fast 2.0, I love it. We're already iterating. So, what LG has been looking at a lot lately, which I think is going to be, a really interesting consumer point for Fast, is exclusives and originals, right? Just like everybody out there who's trying to build an audience, you have to build an audience with something that's going to be compelling and different. And so last year, LG launched a special relationship with NCAA where we have an NCAA channel. And then this year we've launched an exclusive channel with David Chang, and who's a world-renowned chef, owner of Major Domo, owner of Momofuku restaurants, and so he does an exclusive, not just cooking show, but cooking channel for LG channels. And there's a number of ways that this can go into any category. But I think, one of the things that you'll see now is a dedication from the fast companies to getting exclusive, original, and differentiated content out there to keep building an audience.
I see. Greg, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think what I'll add to that is exclusive and original is great, and we've definitely taken part in that. I would add a branded or a sponsor-led content to that as well. That's where we are finding a lot of opportunity to source and secure exclusive content. But it is an expensive venture as well, right? If you're producing content and you have an audience that hasn't yet official or hasn't yet engaged on a regular basis, and then that becomes a bit of a cost center for you. It becomes very difficult to monetize over time, and that's why scale is really, really important, I think. And also by leveraging brands as a part of this opportunity, I think is really critical as well. So we've done that, right? We have a platform, we have a home screen that is very, very valuable. How do you get to the consumer, right? How do you take those originals and those exclusives and put them in front of people, right? And once you can engage those folks, right, you can get them in and you can leverage that opportunity by bringing in sponsorships and brands to that. And that is a really unique and interesting opportunity, I think, in this space for how we monetize this space as we continue to grow over time. 2.0 is going to include exclusives and originals and all that. I think that is an engagement tool, but a retention tool is always going to be having great content, having a great experience and great product that keeps people there day after day after day, right? It's getting better content and bigger brands, and we're in the business of doing that as well, right? I always like to say, and it's been reported in the market, we can believe it or not, that Netflix 50% of their content is original content, but 75% of their viewing is catalog content, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that people know, love, they can put on and let it run. And we're in the business of selling ads, which means we need people to watch today, tomorrow, next month, and next year all the time. And that's why I say 2.0 is a continued enhancement on that product, bigger brands, building bigger brands also, which we can talk about today too. It's not just put it up and let it run. We actually have to build the new TBS and TNT, USA, FX of today, of this new world, right? And those are the opportunities, I think.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because, part of the growing pains of streaming media fast has been those economic scales, right? So you're saying the monetization needs to justify the cost. I'm hearing that through the lines, but I'm also hearing that, well, we're getting closer and closer to that. You have Nielsen announcing that for the first time, more people are watching streaming and fast than they are cable and satellite. I mean, that's a pretty major milestone. But for those in the group that are either, content producers looking to understand when they might start proposing things to the connected TV set manufacturers and to others, I mean, are we months away, years away, a dream come true already? I mean, where are we in the timeline of that?
If I can jump on that, I think we're there. If you look at what Roku Channel's doing, Tubi, Crackle, LG mentioned something, we did something in this space as well. There is an opportunity there. It's I think it's going to be more robust and more readily available across all the platforms over time. It just takes time, right? And I think that those productions and that new content is going to get bigger and bigger over time as well, right? Those budgets will start to balloon. We've seen a lot of true crime. We've seen a lot of food-based content. That's really, really great. It's not Game of Thrones. Do we ever get there? I'm not sure if we do, but like anything, it takes time to scale, grow, and justify those investments. We see again with Roku and Tubi, they've already made those investments. They have, incredible scale, and they seem fairly committed to it. So I think we're there, but how do we grow it to more than 2 services, on in a robust manner?
Got it.
Yeah,
Well,
the only thing I might throw on top of that is I think we need to think in terms of the total smart TV while we're building the value of FAST, right? So FAST has a place. It has great, has great content, has a certain way of consuming content. The charm of the fact that, I don't have to carry a subscription here in order to enjoy this content. And I can just go surf to my heart's delight. But for the fact that, LG and other companies, they're in the smart state space, we also have the ability to highlight our great content partnerships, which are going to have awesome content behind a paywall.
sure.
So this is very much an ecosystem that, while LG is providing, this FAST experience, we're also partnering with FAST companies. We're partnering with subscription companies. We're partnering with, a lot of companies to come in here and provide choice to the consumers so that they can go, and get whatever they want to watch.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Which brings to me some technological questions. I'm going to shift to you, Gustavo, for a second. Talk about APS-C 3.0, the different methods that broadcasters, for example, with that are looking to kind of claim some eyeballs in this new technology space. I know, LG and Vizio, for amongst all the others, are enabling these technologies. But what's going to get the consumer to even care or know about what I'm talking about? I mean, it sounds like a bunch of letters and numbers to most people. You're addressing this market by supplying them with content. Talk about that for a second.
Sure. So ATSC 3.0 is a new broadcast television standard that's being developed and adopted by the industry in the United States. It is designed to provide advanced features and capabilities that are far superior than ATSC 1.0, including 4K resolution, high dynamic range, interactive capabilities, personalized advertising, and personalized content. So basically, every broadcast station is going to be able to be a cable service. And it's going to be able to provide you with personalized text messages. And it's going to be able to give you fast channels. So it's a whole new paradigm. And so, and it's happening already. There is a consortium called Next Gen TV. It's a consortium led by Sinclair. And they're already available in 64 cities. And most people don't realize that. To put this in perspective, the total number of households in the 200 largest cities in the US is around 40 million. That is half of the number of US cable households. And so, I think that companies like LG and Vizio, which manufacture these televisions, I think they're going to benefit from this adoption of ATSC 3.0. They can't lose, because this is going to drive the demand for a new type of television that can handle this. And they can already do fast, right? They can already, they're going to be the big gatekeepers. But, for us, we have about 200, ISPs across the countries. Many are wireless. And what we're thinking about, to what extent should we, transform them or to have them partner with local, broadcasters to do much more than just, pay retransmission for ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox.
Got it. So you've got the television, connected TV manufacturers creating an entire ecosystem environment. To your point, Matt, it's not just fast channels. It's, oh, you want to go watch it on AVOD because you missed some, click over here. Oh, you want to go transact and buy the new version of that movie? Go click over here. To your point, Greg, it's interface and the ease of use is what's going to wrap people in. And then Gustavo, you're talking about, and it's not just the TV sets, it's the way it's broadcast as well. Let's keep on technology, but let me
It's also the data on that too. I think we have a lot of data now that we can use in real time, right? We own our hardware, we own our software, we know what our users want. We can actually create content and acquire content based on what they like and what they want to watch, and then put it in front of them when they want to watch it.
Powerful.
Yeah. And Jonathan, just to put another point, you said interface. The way LG Channels works, there's a homepage and you can surf, with this kind of traditional method of searching content. But LG Channels is also baked into the guide of the television. So,
Right.
When you go to LG Channels, you are actually accessing the same user interface where you're going to get the ATSC 3.0 channels, or where you could get the ATSC 1.0 channels if that's if you're hooked up with an antenna. And so, user does not have to think about, oh, this channel's coming in, these 4 channels are coming in from, my antenna, and these 4 channels are coming in from my, my Wi-Fi network. It's just a list of 8 channels here, and to them, they're just flipping from channel to channel. So,
makes sense.
It's really just the TV has expanded, this linear kind of traditional experience that consumers have had, for 50 to 70 years. I forget the number. And, and if you think about it, it's all just being baked into one experience.
No, that makes sense. I'm wanting to bring Kevin and Rema into the conversation from a technological perspective. I know, Rema, you're doing a lot of engineering for Fandango. The movie industry's completely changed. I mean, it's, theaters are open, maybe people are going back, but then it's also up on some streaming services, day and date, or maybe a little after, but all those traditional windows have gone away, which the consumer may be happy about, but I wonder what it's doing to the industry. I wonder what folks like you are doing to maximize the viewer experience with that. And then with you, Kevin, I want to talk about live, meaning not just, a linear fast channel, but no, this is actually happening right now, and it's or seconds ago, allowing for some latency, but it's live and it's real live, because I think that having been around in the 80s when television and live TV had appointment viewing, and Thursday nights were some things and Monday nights, that's gone, or at least it's going away for a lot of the younger viewers. And live certainly matters when it comes to sports and events and some other content, but how are people going to know about it? How are people going to find it? What is the technology going to do? Matt's talking about it's all in one place on the user screen, but what's all in one place, and how are we going to get to it all? So Kevin or Rema, whoever feels most excited, jump in.
So, I think one of the things I wish I had a crystal ball and could kind of figure out what's going to be next and where we should all focus. And from a Fandango perspective, our view is that the consumers are really just looking for choice. We want to make sure they have choice. They're chasing the content. They're not necessarily chasing, the mechanism and where that content is. They just want to find the content, and we need to be wherever they are, at whatever device they are, whatever system they are, and provide them with the best experience possible, right? So for us, what we're doing, and as we're looking at, those windows changing, the ways in which people consume content, whether that be in theaters or at home, we need to be everywhere. And also, these large movies that are coming out, those windows have essentially collapsed, right? I mean, it's a lot shorter. So we're hitting them from the theatrical standpoint, making sure that they have the best experience getting their ticket and still getting into theaters to watch that content. But also too, we want to make sure if you're not a consumer who goes to the theaters as much so anymore, we want to make sure you have access to that content and have access to it quickly. So on our streaming platform, our Vudu platform, we provide the best in class amenities and video and 4K to make sure that the experience is just as good as it is at home. So which is a really, really big focus. So wherever they are, we want to make sure that they can discover content. I heard someone mention, Roku and the channels there. we make sure our content even feeds in there because they're going to be on those Roku platforms on LG or Samsung or what have you. And we want to make sure they have the choice. Do they want to watch? Do they want to rent it? Do they want to buy it? Is it available for free via advertising? Are they seeing the trailers? We want to make sure that they have that content everywhere because we can't predict where this industry is going to take us. I mean, in the pandemic, we've seen this whole shift, right? And I think so many companies and studios are trying to come up with, what's the thing that's going to get the most eyeballs? And everyone's trying different things. And you just have to be ready to pivot from an engineering perspective. Our focus is let's build for as many situations as we can in a cost-effective way so that the business can pivot how it needs to pivot based on the different consumer behavior changes.
Makes sense. Yep. Someone in the chat, be wherever they are. It's the only advice, the first rule of interactivity and engagement. So, but where they are has certainly increased dramatically. Kevin, what do you think about the live question?
Yeah, well, Jonathan, I would echo a number of things that Rema said. So, so we're hearing from Matt and from Greg and from Gustavo about the content and how important content is. And what Zixi does is get the content there incredibly reliably. So whether it's a live event, a sporting event where you're doing kind of the traditional contribution of that back into a production environment, or if you're actually doing the distribution of the fast channel out to different platforms, like the ones that we are represented here, or to third parties like Amagi or others who then, get that content on out to different platforms. Rema, you mentioned a lot about the customer experience, right? And the quality of experience and making sure, because we're all used to watching TV. We've all done it forever. Matt, you said 50, 70 years, whatever it is. I mean, we've all done it for a very long time. And it's always been done the same way where it's, transmitted out from a single location, often using satellite, right? And it's been done that way for decades because it's worked really well. It's really reliable. So replicating that sort of reliability in the fast channel world or in the streaming world is part of, is where we come in. And so, and then to answer your question, Jonathan, in terms of actual discovery, like Rema said, there's all sorts of traditional paths where you're marketing it. It's on websites. There's still platforms that have guides. There's that sort of thing. But then there's also, social media, which hasn't been mentioned yet too much, I don't think. And even doing things like, during a sporting event, doing the live clipping and then, generating viral interest in a show because, something happens, there's a great play or whatever, and you start getting that out on the social media platforms and then having people discover it that way. And there's even other things, a different type of content that I became aware of late last year. I was at Broadcast Asia. And, so we haven't talked much about influencer kind of content, right? But there's a lot of rumors about YouTube getting into the fast space soon and probably with a lot of influencer kind of content. I was interested to find out in China, they'll do live events where some influencer will go shopping. They'll get 1 million people watching that at one time.
Wow.
So there's that kind of content too. And again, doing that with the same level of reliability that we've all expected from television. It's got to work. That's where we come in.
Well, there's a lot of streaming media is a lot of technologists and people interested in this space from that perspective. And, technology can ever expand, but the capability of integrating it into the economic model is really where the rubber hits the road. And for example, I know with LG and Vizio and Samsung and most of them, if you're sending a live stream, you're using one of three major players. Maybe there's a fourth or fifth sometimes, but you're really using one of three. And Zixi, I think, has a really good position for what you're doing. But for the technologists out there in the audience that are sitting there on some patents or fantastic ideas of how to make all of our lives easier, but don't know, how to get to the right people or how to break through the noise of, technology is ever evolving and we're using them right now. I mean, any advice that anybody has?
Yeah, get a patent.
Good luck, is what I'm getting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting world to navigate with so much available, and yet, still needing to come up with some standards that everyone can play within. I know we were talking about some of the new things coming out, Matt, with TV sets. I think what'd you call it? Roll Ed TV, where
it's not a public name, but we were talking before the panel about OLED panel and OLED, and we have a TV that'll roll the OLED into its soundbar. It was debuted at CES in 2020, so just in time for us to kind of all shut our doors and forget about the world for a couple of years. But so yeah, we've been making that TV for a couple of years, and I was joking that the internal name around here is ROLED, and it's not our marketing name though. So my marketing guys, I hope none of them are on this call because I'll probably hear about it later.
Okay, and it's my fault. I didn't know not to bring it up. So
no, that's okay, Jonathan. It's open.
But you heard it here. Scoop.
Yeah, the value panel.
Well, do you, Greg, have anything to offer in terms of sort of how the tech will shift in the near future? Things that we're either just announced at CES or maybe coming soon that you think, bringing it back to FAST specifically and FAST 2.0, how will this affect viewing? How will, for example, the user guide become an easier, quicker way to find the content that we're looking for? But please jump in with anything that you have.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I think Greg touched on this before. It's when you're a TV manufacturer and you have the capability of supplying the front end experience that leads consumers to, whether it's linear TV, broadcast TV, streaming TV with FAST, smart TV has essentially become, the best place for consumers to spend their time, so that you can get smarter and smarter about what content is being recommended, what content is being searched for, what content is being, made available to you. The amount of content, the amount of data, the ability for TV manufacturers to satisfy the players that are in this market, from the consumers to the partnerships that are being created, to the advertisers that are coming into the TV to reach this audience. This is an exciting place for for smart TV or TV manufacturers in general to basically sit with that ecosystem and to be providing this incredible value prop. By the way, Rema, I wanted to throw this in. I've been buying movies from Vudu since 2009. 2009. I mean, that's kind of incredible that that's the date, because I just looked at my my computer clock and it said 2023. I can't believe how fast the time has gone. We've been doing this for a while.
Right.
Yeah, we've been busy. I mean, I've been in this space since 2006, so a really long time. And again, customers love great content, right? I mean, all of us, our job really, as we talk about these different technologies and the ups and downs and FAST 2.0 and things like that, really all we're doing is making sure that customers get to experience, the love of this great content, movie content, TV content. It's actually amazing that we've been at this for so long and we're still finding new ways to innovate and bring those experiences to life, now at home, right? On phones. And it's fantastic to kind of see how the industry has matured over the years, for sure.
Anyone else with anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just add to the product side. I mean, I think the way that I look at it, or that we look at it, is there's a number of products that we're building, some that are meant for a monetization. How do we fill ads better, right? How do we get better data? How do we get better targeting to satisfy our brands, our advertisers better. And then there's customer features. And I think we're going to see growth in both of those areas significantly. And I think that we are not finished anywhere close to finishing the core product either. The ability to connect fast to VOD, start over features, very simple things that we've seen in cable, actually. We haven't even brought here yet to enhance this world. Then you can start to talk about interactivity. E-commerce is something that's been talked about a lot. And you see, I think it was Roku in the news for that. Actually, I know it was Roku in the news for that. There's a lot of opportunity there as well. Those things are going to take some time to build, right? I think there's a trend with me on this call today is I'm saying scale and time. It's all going to take time, but we're building new behaviors all the time, right? And we're going to continue to see these features. It's really exciting, and it's going to be exciting for the next few years. And these features are going to continue to roll out. I mean, we just announced last week a Viziogram, which is a way to share your pictures and videos on your television with your friends and family, right? That's never been done before, right? And again, it takes education, though. It takes marketing, right? And the ability to get to the consumer. I think OEMs like Matt and I are in a really good spot to educate that consumer on all these new, and wonderful features. It's our job also as business folks over the long term to build a business around it as well, right? When we create these features, what are we doing to improve our top line and continue to grow as a company and make this a viable business?
It's just too good a segue not to grab it. There's in the Q&A right now, there's a question that says, are consumers involved in the co-creating with engineering, and how do you include insights and guidance from consumers into basically the plan? Do you use focus groups?
I'm sure Greg, would echo this. I mean, our consumers are very much present and when it comes to our product development. Our product planning team actually puts people from the product planning team in Korea, in every market, conduct field testing and consumer research, so that we can understand what's the voice of the consumer as we're developing new innovations. We get a ton of comments, on our website. We get a ton of reach outs, customer service calls. That's all getting input into the system. And, companies like LG, we've built our brand around innovation. So, we're constantly trying to reach new levels of innovation. That rollable OLED that we were talking about, or the wireless TV where we have, even your HDMI is going into a side box that is then being broadcast to the TV wirelessly. So you don't have to have HDMI cables, hanging up that TV. I mean, the company is constantly trying to out innovate the previous year's innovations, both from a software perspective and from a hardware perspective. It's in the DNA of the company. And I think a lot of TV manufacturers feel that way. We always want to provide more value to the consumer, but it helps when you have the consumer perspective in mind going into answering that question.
I want to add to that, because I think, it's a great question that we're asked. And from an engineering perspective, I mean, we work for the consumer, and the consumer is definitely always a partner when we're building new technologies. We're doing A/B testing constantly, right? Putting different feature sets or experiences or user flows in front of these consumers and kind of seeing, which one sticks, which one gets them to where they need to go quickly and efficiently and gets them what they want. And so we're constantly doing that. We have our research team is doing surveys and research to kind of find out, what resonates here, what resonates there. It's one of those things that is a must, right? In order to be successful. We've been in this game, all of us, for a number of years, right? The only way that we've been this successful and the way we'll continue to be successful is if we pay attention to what the consumer behavior is. What do they like? All these different features that Greg was just mentioning that we're building and we're trying, they only make sense if the customers jump onto it, right? If it meets their needs and meets their goals. And then if that is the case, then let's monetize it. Let's figure out how to create a business around it.
Right.
On
And on that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
They have to be well timed as well, too, right? We've seen a lot of technology that comes early. People aren't ready. It's not a need, right? It's seeing what we do now and how to improve or enhance that maybe just a little bit, or something that would be truly enhanced by being on the biggest screen in the house. And I know that we've looked at a lot of things here, really cool ideas, but it just didn't make sense right now, right?
Right.
And I think that's key as well.
Yeah,
and Gustavo,
what
do you
screen
feel
does it
like-
make sense on? A TV, a mobile device, on the
Right.
desktop, on the computer, all of that, it matters for sure.
Gustavo, do you feel like the rural areas, the areas being served by the technologies that you're involved in, et cetera, do you think that they're on par with, say, the city areas in terms of the adaptability of the technology and what we're talking about? Is it?
That's a very good point, and that is a bit our mission. I think so. I think we rolled out some features that are pretty advanced. That you'd be surprised. For example, the first ATSC 3.0 channel at full capability that was rolled out by PBS in New Mexico, right, in a rural area. We already successfully merged fast OTT and cable programming, depending on where that customer is, by working with cache servers. I think in some respects we're leapfrogged what people are doing right now. I just wanted to comment really quickly on what Rena just said. I think what she was saying was very important. One thing that I miss, and I also want to bring to the rural markets, is the interoperability of devices. And one thing I miss about FAST is the user journey. People usually discover content on a phone, and then they like it. So people talk about the transmedia experience, and then they want to watch it on a big screen. And for FAST, it's very hard. For example, you just mentioned two of the largest players that you cannot. They don't monetize web. They don't monetize phones. They all want to monetize CTV. So although CTV is very important, televisions are important. A lot of young people, they don't have a television. They spend a lot of time on the phone. So I think we have to find a way to monetize. Like Craig talked about this, better monetization, but more advanced algorithms, whereby if you're able to get that to that one consumer that will buy, that is a very high CPM, right? It should not just be on how many people are watching. But yeah, in terms of the rural people, we're doing our best to take care of them, and I feel that some of our systems, if you look at what they have as a television solution, it's more advanced than what some people get here in New York. It's more advanced than I have here with Spectrum in New York City for sure.
Well, let me ask a question then of the whole group. It's a question that actually came up with a very prominent writer in our industry, so I can't take full credit for it. But he basically was lamenting on the fact that, the internet got launched and now has a really long tail of content in terms of just, anybody interested in anything to any depth can find what they're looking for on the internet. And the hope was with streaming media, the technology shifting as it is, now that's going to be possible on television sets as well. And I don't think he meant through the internet. I think he meant, that sure, there may only be 100 instead of 100,000 people that are interested in some obscure subject I can't think of to give an example right now, but they matter too. And wouldn't it be great if we had channels for everyone? I don't see that happening. At least it doesn't look like it's happening. Am I wrong? Is it happening, or why isn't it happening? And why shouldn't it happen if it isn't?
Sorry, Jonathan, are you asking why doesn't everybody have a channel?
It seems like FAST is capping off at about 200 to 300 channels. And I understand, cable capped off around 300. They figured out people don't want more channels than that. But there was also more limitation in terms of cable technology at the time that was happening. And maybe it's just the economies of scale aren't there to have a channel for everyone. But yeah, it's kind of that question, Matt, but it's also kind of, why are we limiting the number of channels out there? Is it is it because no one would find more than that anyway with the current user interfaces? Nobody seems to want it. I mean, I'm just curious what you guys' perspective is.
Yeah,
So
Greg, I don't know if you want to tackle that first or anybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I have a few things, and I have to find my source on this. It's been a while, but during the peak of the cable days, when they went from 100 channels, or at 100 channels on average, each household was watching 12 channels a year out of 100. When it went up to 300 or 500 or whatever it was, the average household was watching 19 channels, right? So your penetration went down. People, as you said, Jonathan, people are capping themselves, right? But everybody's tastes are different. I
Right.
think what it comes down to is personalization and customization, right? We can have these channels, right? We can support these channels on a dynamic platform, but we have to be able to put what you want when you want it in front of you. Generally, a broad audience has an expectation of a TV experience. That expectation can change over time, but people a lot of times want to put on housing content, let it run. This is what they like to watch, right? There's not enough variability to say we need 1,000 channels, I think, right? Because in each one of these categories, in each one of these genres, the cream is going to rise to the top. And I've said this on a couple other panels too. I said, yes, there's a lot of great content out there, but from a TV, a lean back viewing experience, do you need 15 food channels? Right. And
Right.
that's where I think the industry is going to cap itself in that, you have 15, but 3 or 4 are going to rise to the top and the other ones are probably going to fall off, lose the monetization, lose that audience and not be able to sustain. Go back to old cable. There were 2 or 3 of these channels, right? It's almost, you know, um, it's like a natural progression. It's like a natural selection almost, right? In this space. Now, again, I think we can support more as long as we build a customizable, world that we can. I think there's a world where we can auto generate channels based on, you know, a a consumer's tastes. But that's also going to rely on a platform or service's ability to license all that right content as well, right? And then be able to monetize it. And right now, what we see is YouTube is kicking butt in this space with all this short form and giving you all that, optionality. And I would argue that it is ad-supported TV when it's on the television. 40% of their revenue comes from a CTV, but it's not the same thing that we're talking about,
Right.
right?
Yeah, Greg, you couldn't have said this point any better, and it was where I was going to go. To me, the benefit to the consumer when it comes to FAST and what's happening right now in our market is we get to break all these rules. It's not about how many 3-letter companies are getting into your guide anymore. Now, as TV manufacturers, as FAST companies, we're expanding the categories, right? This channel might just be one TV show constantly streaming new episodes or, old episodes of a streaming, could be retro TV, could be nostalgic TV. Then we could have a channel that is, theme based and we're just focusing on a theme. Or then we could also have a trusted content distributor that, has a varied lineup and crosses over different, themes of channels. We can do all of this within one UI, and then we can look at performance and we can say, all right, this isn't resonating.
Right.
And, this is not something where, innovation takes every, 2 or 3 years. We can make instant decisions. Okay, this is not resonating. And of course, it puts a lot of responsibility on the operators of these FAST services, to understand, is it me or is it you, right? I mean, this is like this old relationship problem, right? Is it me? Like, I haven't done enough to give you a chance to reach this audience. I haven't given you enough time to do this. Or is it you that, okay, I have done all those things. You have had this opportunity, and at this point we want to move into a different direction. And maybe it's a difficult conversation, or maybe it's just, hey, look, we both see that this isn't resonating the way that we wanted it to resonate. How do you want to evolve? And it can be collaborative. So, I think the scale economics here take over, where two companies come together, you try to create hits and you try to get consumers excited, and if it works, great, you're off, and then if it doesn't work, you gotta pivot and change.
Matt, I feel like you've taken the Valentine theme of the week and
I
just
did
like
it. Yeah,
expanded
Valentine's
to relationships and fast.
It's not you, Jonathan, it's me.
Well,
Gotcha.
I also want to add to that, which we should have mentioned too, is the value of surfing. Surfing, a guide, 1,000 channels, you're just not going to get through it, right?
Right.
If you limit, and those are catered to the consumer and what works and what doesn't, you have more of an opportunity to support your content partners and your users' expectations.
But Greg, that's what I meant. I think a lot of the discovery for new channels, right? Because take Samsung, for example, right? They have a limited number of channels. We have a Samsung app and we have niche channels that will never be able to get onto the Samsung store.
Right.
But somebody can now pull up our TeleUP app and they can watch that niche channel. So that's one way to work with it. So I agree with you 100%. You cannot have like a Grace Note guide with 1,000 channels, but somebody might see like a cool clip on Instagram. Oh, that's interesting. I want to watch more. Oh, wow, I can really watch this on a Vizio. Oh, great. Where can I watch that? On that app. And there you go. And then as this channel gets more, you guys have access to the analytics, as these new channels that nobody knows, become more popular, you can then decide whether you put them in your main store.
Absolutely. Right.
Well,
And there
let's
always
talk
could be
about what gets in
opportunities
your
on
main
that,
store.
Gustavo. Really quick. Again, going back to product, there may be ways for us to support that kind of content in different ways, right? Maybe it's not in the main thing, but we can feature it somehow to a particular audience, right? And see if we can find an audience there. I mean, I'm always open to testing. And that's what this world is really, really great for. And we're seeing a lot more of that opportunity with a dynamic platform.
Got it.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in one other related thing. So we've heard lots of good reasons like why the 1,000 channel model just doesn't work, right? And I worked at a cable programmer back in the late 90s, early 2000s when we were going from 100 channels to 200 to 500. And at that time, it was just launch as many new channels as you can to grab shelf space. And that's kind of the phase of fast that we've been going through, I think, is that people just launched whatever channel they could to get, to grab land and get out there. What we're hearing from our customers is that, that for those types of channels that maybe are, one of the 3 or 4 cooking channels that's trying to race to the top. A big important part of it is that being able to provide that channel at a cost that makes sense, so that so everything from the content to the origination to the transmission, and then doing that transmission to multiple different platforms, being able to manage the costs of that so that they can, be that in that group of channels, but to be able to do so profitably is another factor, I think.
We have a question in the Q&A around sports and how will FAST impact sports and sports content, given that the rights are held by traditional distributors. I want to ask the panel that question, and also, if there's a way to pivot in terms of you guys are sitting on the data that is dictating what people want. Tell our audience what that is. What are the FAST channel holes that can be filled that you're looking for content in?
So should we try to tackle sports first, Jonathan?
Yeah, and is sports one of them? Is maybe the right way to start?
Yeah, well, I mean, sports is definitely one of them. There's no question that sports is one of the most critical parts of a content lineup for for TV period. No streaming TV, no TV fast, just TV. Sports is a key driver. That's why when you look at and I think it comes down to what's the right window and opportunity, right? So, maybe there's going to be something that's going to have, high costs associated with it. You got to put it within a bigger ecosystem, some kind of a pay ecosystem, in order to get that, that money to equate back to the investment that it takes to create that broadcast. But these same leagues are also coming into FAST, right? And they're saying, hey, what can I do with all this other content? And you look at our NFL channel, the NFL channel, we're watching playoff games the next day. It's a great channel. You can get, additive content. You can basically stay tuned in with sports even when there isn't a live thing going on and it's in a fast environment. And TV manufacturers like LG, we can also create more effective relationships with these brands. A lot of TV manufacturers have done, marketing arrangements with some of these companies. We're in the middle of one right now with NCAA. It wouldn't have been an attractive relationship for us if it didn't manifest as, a differentiated channel that's in our fast environment, bringing Division 1, 2, and 3 sports, men's, women's, every sport into a channel and giving all athletes a chance to, be on the big screen, not just kind of the 2 sports that everybody thinks about, but bring. So
you're saying there's hope for the adolescent pickleball league?
Yes. Oh my gosh, my dad and my brother would love that you just threw pickleball in there.
I couldn't help
It's the
myself.
fastest growing sport in America.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Yeah. But I digress. Anyone else want to add to that?
I mean, I can show you what people are watching on our platform here. I don't know if that's allowed, but in any case, we see there's a demand for comedy and in music, but music done differently. I think we could use both of those. What works really well with us is action. For some reason, our customers love action. So anything action related, they just love to watch it.
Nice.
And I think the larger and larger IP and the prominence of brands, and we've seen certain partners come to the market with no discernible brand or a brand that they're trying to build, and it hasn't worked, right? And we yell and scream, give us your brands that everybody knows and loves. They do, and then their performance quadruples, right? It's a trust factor, right? And leverage what you've already built, and they were hesitant to do that at one point, and they're getting there now. And I think that this is a ripe environment because it is so new for brands, not just brands that were successful in TV, but brands that are successful everywhere, right? You can talk about influencers, right? Can an influencer carry a channel? Maybe, maybe not, probably not, is my guess, a linear channel, but they are brands in and of themselves. So how do we leverage that?
Totally. Well, I'm looking at the clock and seeing we've got like less than a minute left, and I have a ton of questions. I would love to do this panel even longer than we are, but I think we're, Eric's showing up on the screen, and that's always a sign that I'm supposed to shut up. So I turn
It's
it
the
back
worst
over
part
to
of my
you.
job. I don't think there was not a single panel during this week's Connect that could not have gone for another hour. This was terrific. Thank you, Jonathon, for moderating. Thanks everyone for your terrific insights. Thanks to our audience, as always, for the great questions and comments in the chat. Well, most of the comments in the chat, we thank you for. And thank you to the folks who guessed and attempted to guess the walk-up music that our producer, Steve Nathans Kelly, put over the slideshow before every session. This time, it was Not Just Knee Deep by Funkadelic, and the first person to get the song name and artist name right was George Barentes. Nice job, George. Keep an eye on your email at the end of the week, and we will get you. Is that the right name, Steve? Did I get the wrong name? It's Wazeal Chef. I'm sorry. That was last session's winner. That's the first time I've done that all week, and it's the last session, so I guess that's all right. All right, Zeal, keep your eye out on your email. Nice job there. And Steve has graciously put together a playlist, I believe, of all the songs that he played before our sessions this week. And so I'll keep rambling until he gets a chance to paste that in the chat as well, if anyone's interested. Thanks again to Signiant for sponsoring all of our Streaming Media Connect sessions. Thanks to all of our individual session sponsors, including Zixi for sponsoring this one. It's, as always, been a terrific time. We've got one more long session tomorrow, a workshop called Drool-Worthy Streaming Gear and How to Use It. And Steve, you'll be behind the boards on that one again, right? Oh, your mic's off.
Is the
Yeah,
tech
yeah, we'll be
guy's
back
mic off?
tomorrow. Don't miss it.
And there's the Spotify walk-up music playlist for all the tunes you heard this week. Great job, everyone. Thanks so much. We'll see you next
Thanks.
time.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.